Hello everyone, my name is Jose Avalos, aka Dr. Logic8.
And I'm Troy Johnson, back for another Path Creator tutorial video.
Yes, thank you for spoiling the contents of this tutorial.
It's always my pleasure.
Yes. Well, in this tutorial we will teach you how to move enemies throughout the toy box with the Path Creator. Because if you remember in Disney Infinity 1 and 2, moving enemies where you want them to be can be rather difficult, to say the least. But now with the Path Creator tool, you can make them move exactly where you want them to be. So you can make enemy patrol movements, or even like movements from other genres like MOBAs, and so many others. So for that, first, we need to first create a spline. So for that, we will go to the editor and then into the Creativity Toys category. And we will select the Path Creator tool. Now, if you haven't seen the first video on the Path Creator series, I definitely recommend checking it because it will teach you a lot of the basics of the properties of the toy. We're not going to delve into them as much this time around. So we have first our particular path, and now we will also place an action button just so we can trigger enemies into the world. So we'll place one here. And also, we're gonna need an enemy, so we will place an enemy generator. Let's place him somewhere close to the player. You will see why in a minute. The most important thing if you wanna create, if you wanna make an enemy follow a path, is that in the properties, auto starts objects when connected has to be on. If it's not on, enemies are not going to be walking down the path. So make sure that this property is on. And now we will actually make an enemy and make that enemy follow the spline. So for that, first we will connect the enemy generator. So we will select it with one and say new path connection. And now we will select the Path Creator and say Toybox Path. And just like when it happened in the first tutorial where we got new properties, when we attached the basic square block to the Path Creator, the enemy generator also gets new properties. In this case, generated enemy options. So, Troy, can you please go into more detail on what these properties mean?
Sure.
So ignore outside influences.
All right, ignore outside influences. Basically, when turned on, that makes it so that enemies who are walking or traveling or running or however they move along this particular path, they will not be distracted. They will not perceive enemies or players or other NPCs that they will want to go attack. So they will basically just walk that path and do exactly as they're told and just keep moving. They won't be bothered by other things.
Yeah, unless you attack them first. If you attack the enemies while they are in the spline, they will attack you.
Precisely. They'll go into their what's the word?
Route? Path?
I mean, if you hit them, they'll go into their aggressive behavior, their, I don't know,
yeah,
life-saving mode. But
yeah, in desperation mode. I don't know.
Yes, maybe that's the word, desperation mode.
Exactly.
So, but again, if that's turned off, then they will not ignore outside influences like players and other things, and they will be able to peel away from their walking path and go attack you instead of just staying in their dedicated route.
Yeah, also it's important to note that this property does not include things like safety domes or objects from the Asgard and the Stitch Toy Box games. So they will attack those.
Yes.
Regardless of whether this property is on or off. This mostly refers to other players and other enemies, if in case you're doing a team competition.
Yes.
Now return to path after attacking.
So this one basically is just like it sounds. Once they are influenced by some outside offender, a player or another opposing enemy or something like that, once they see that all threats are gone, or at least that they no longer perceive a threat within their perception range, they will then return back to the path where they came off and begin and take up their route again and keep walking on it. So again, as Jose was mentioning earlier, something like a MOBA where they'll go attack somebody until all the threats are gone, and then they'll go back to their route and continue on toward the end goal that you might have set up.
Yes, and finally, movement style is just like the basic block, so loop, back and forth, and so on. So we'll for this one we'll go with back and forth. And now we need to actually generate the enemy. So for that, we will say new logic connection pressed in the action button, and now we will create an enemy. So let's say Toy Box and the Kingsguard, the enemies from Tangled. And we will create the enemy. Now, you might notice that the enemy is not following the path, and instead is trying to attack me. And there is a specific reason for it, because the property ignore outside influences from the enemy generator only works once enemies are on the path, not beforehand. So if you want the generated enemies to start doing the path immediately, we have to generate them as close to the beginning of the spline as possible. So for that, we will place a locator. It should be somewhere around here. Oh, right here. And we will set up this locator in particular as the starting point or generation point of the enemy. So we will select this new locator connection, and now we will select the locator and say generation location. And now we will create the enemy. The enemy starts, and I'm still too close. So I'm sorry.
You really aren't good at this, are you?
He hadn't quite entered his pathing AI.
Yeah, so another good piece of advice would be like, make sure there is some distance. And also I'll make sure that the enemy is not looking at the player. So I'll just rotate this one. My bad. I'm very clumsy with these controls. No, rotate them. So now the enemy is going to be looking at the direction that the path is moving, and it's represented by this light blue dot. So now let's generate the enemy again. And now we will notice that the enemy is actually moving along the spline.
So Jose, put away your wand and see what it looks like now. So again, this is one of those toys we mentioned in the last tutorial, but I think it's worth bringing up again, that when you are actually in editing mode, whether the editor is open, or you have your wand out, or you're in Spark mode, it will only be visible in one of those editing modes.
And you can see that the enemy is ignoring me.
He's just running on his merry way, doing exactly as you've told him to do by attaching him to that path.
Yes, unless I attack them. And now they are actually attacking me. Well, or trying to attack me. They can do anything against Mulan. She's the greatest. And now another really cool thing about moving enemies with this spline is that they can also move vertically alongside terrain pieces, because in previous games they could only move pretty much in a straight line or in a straight flat terrain. But now they can also, like, if you want to make them move up a mountain, they can actually do that. And we're gonna show it right here, right now. So for that, we will go to the terrain category, and let's place some slope pieces. I like this one. Yeah, this one will do. So we will place one here, and we're gonna place another one right here. And now, just for convenience sake, I will delete this path and create a new one, where the enemy is actually going to appear as close to these terrain pieces as possible, and then just go up. So, editor, let's go again to the Creativity Toys category, and let's make a new path. Boop. I need to rotate the camera. I always forget how to do this on PC. It uses completely different controls. Yep, this will do. And now let's change the position where the enemy is going to appear, again, to be as close as possible to the spline. And we need to reconnect the enemy generator to the path creator. So for that, again, new path connection. And say Toybox path.
So, Jose, if you'll go to the enemy generator again and
Yes.
look at the properties, I just want to point something out.
Yes, absolutely. This one?
Yep. So you'll see that the properties that he has set for the pathing options on the enemy generator are the same as the previous path that he had set up. Now, because he had deleted the first path, if you had gone in and tried to edit those properties, you would see that the option was missing. You wouldn't be able to edit them. But for convenience, once you attach a new path, that particular enemy generator toy will have remembered exactly the properties that you had set for pathing options in general.
All right. So yeah, those properties are created dynamically when you make the path connection. And now for final demonstration, let's create the enemy again. And now you see that he is walking up and down the path. So now they can actually go through mountains or any other pathing options that you set them up to do. So going back and forth. And now you can see that making the enemies where you want them to go is easier than ever, thanks to the path creator. And well, that's it for this tutorial. Stick around for more videos where we're going to be talking more about this amazing new toy. And well, if you have any questions, please let us know in the comments or in the forums. And well, have a good day, everyone.
Have a good one. Thank you.